and your flag decal won't get you into heaven anymore. Well, I got my window shield so filled with flags I couldn't see, so I ran the car upside a curb and right into a tree. By the time they got the doctor down, I was already dead, and I'll never understand why the man standing in the gate said, your flag decal won't get you into heaven anymore. We're already overcrowded from your dirty little war, and Jesus don't like killing, no matter what the reason for. And your flag decal won't get you into heaven anymore, but your flag decal won't get you into heaven anymore. We're already overcrowded from your dirty little war. Jesus don't like killing, no matter what the reason for, but your flag decal won't get you into heaven anymore. How many deaths will it take till he knows that too many people have died? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Thank you. Thank you to Bob Dylan. All right, here's another one, or one by Pete Seeger. Oh, had I a golden thread and needle so fine, I'd weave a magic strand of rainbow design. Of rainbow by Dave Martin. He lives out in Lombard, not too far from here. Mrs. Johnson lost her husband on 9/11. Bring our soldiers home. But she knows more killing won't bring her loved one from heaven. Bring our soldiers home. Bring them home. All the fathers, bring them home. The mothers too. Bring them home. The sons and daughters, we say, bring our soldiers home. Standing round the grave, families broken in pain. Bring our soldiers home. Iraqi or American, the hurt cuts the same. Bring our soldiers home. Bring them home. All the fathers, bring them home. The mothers too. Bring them home. The sons and daughters, we say, bring our soldiers home. Private Smith signed up to get his college paid. Bring our soldiers home. Now that tuition means nothing cause he's lying in a grave. Bring our soldiers home. Bring them home. All the fathers, bring them home. The mothers too. Bring them home. The sons and daughters, we say, bring our soldiers home. They justified the war with weapons of mass destruction. Bring our soldiers home. But we were led astray with lies of mass deception. Bring our soldiers home. Bring them home. All the fathers, bring them home. The mothers too. Bring them home. The sons and daughters, we say, bring our soldiers home. Bombers and tanks rolled in to bring Iraq liberation. Bring our soldiers home. Now there's thousands underneath U.S. occupation. Bring our soldiers home. Bring them home. All the fathers, bring them home. The mothers too. Bring them home. The sons and daughters, we say, bring our soldiers home. Bring them home. All the fathers, bring them home. The mothers too. Bring them home. The sons and daughters, we say, bring our soldiers home. Thank you. That was by Dave Martin. Looks like we're almost ready. I'll sing another one by Pete Seeger and I'll get out of the way and let things begin. If I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning, I'd hammer in the evening, all over this land. I'd hammer out danger, I'd hammer out a warning, I'd hammer out a love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. If I had a bell, I'd ring it in the morning, I'd ring it in the evening, all over this land. I'd ring out danger, I'd ring out a warning, I'd ring out love between brothers and sisters, all over this land. If I had a song, I'd sing it in the morning, I'd sing it in the evening, all over this land. I'd sing out danger, I'd sing out a warning, I'd sing out love between brothers and my sisters, all over this land. Now I've got a hammer, and I've got a bell, and I've got a song to sing all over this land. It's a hammer of justice, it's a bell of freedom, it's a song about love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land.
Chicago, President Chapter of Iraq Veterans Against the War. We're a national organization of over 450 veterans that are speaking out about our experiences at the war and letting the nation know that supporting the troops means bringing them home now. Today, as part of an observance for Memorial Day, we're going to have a couple veterans from Iraq and from other conflicts give their testimonials and talk a little bit about their experiences so individuals out here in Chicago know what's really going on. The first person that I'm going to bring up is my brother. He's the Midwest coordinator. I wasn't having this close enough for me, I guess. I'm sorry, I'm a little dazed. I just got back from New York where I was trying to bring the truth of the war home by patrolling the streets of New York with my brothers over here. Regardless, the first member I want to bring up is Martin Smith. He's one of the co-coordinators of the Midwest Iraq Veterans Against the War chapter. Thank you.
Aaron told me to tell you a little bit about myself. I served in the Marine Corps from 1997 to 2002. I was fortunate enough to have gotten out briefly and right after 9/11. I'm a co-coordinator of the Midwest region with Aaron Hughes. We mourn today for the fallen of two wars. One in which more than 3 million Vietnamese were killed and at least as many wounded, along with over 58,000 troops. We also grieve for those lost currently in Iraq, a war in which since the March 2003 invasion, the U.S. has caused the deaths of over 655,000 Iraqis, according to one British journal, The Lancet. So that is only part of the death toll from two Gulf Wars and a decade and a half of sanctions which by themselves claimed the lives of over 500,000, mostly children. We mourn for the nearly 3,500 brothers and sisters who have died and in whose memory our service today is most fitting, because this very month may likely be, with now over 103 casualties, the deadliest month of the year thus far. And yet the statistics and the figures, the body counts and lives lost, reveal little about the individuals, the hundreds of thousands of names and faces, and the humanity that has been lost to both wars. We mourn for brothers like VVAW member Timothy Swanson, who was killed this past January in Iraq and whose tragic death was a blow to us all. We remember Specialist Douglas Barber, who took his own life after a long battle with the VA. And while the disparate numbers of casualties between the two wars on the surface might seem to set the two wars apart, a closer examination reveals how much they have in common. Two wars in which not only the innocent have fallen, but in which our own innocence was lost. Two wars fought in the midst of civil wars where we could not tell friend from foe because the civilian population viewed the real enemy to be our very presence as an occupying force. Two wars that were justified by lies of spreading freedom and democracy, and two wars in which the war planners and generals belittled the American public to support our troops, but in which we always replied that true support means to bring our troops home now. And more than that, real support means providing adequate equipment and fully funded health care, and not the cockroach and rat-infested, dilapidated facilities that Ron Kovic described during Vietnam and that the Washington Post exposed in Building 18 of Walter Reed Hospital. Two wars in which both major parties have failed us. As Cindy Sheehan put it this past weekend to the Democrats in their voting for the Congressional War Funding Bill, and I quote, Now, with the Democrats in control of Congress, I have lost my optimistic naivete and have become cynically pessimistic as I see you all caving into Mr. 28%. There is absolutely no sane or defensible reason for you to hand bloody King George more money to condemn more of our brave, tired, and damaged soldiers and the people of Iraq to more death and carnage. You think giving him more money is politically expedient, that it is a moral abomination in every second the occupation in Iraq endures. You all have more blood on your hands. And as we mourn today for 2 wars, and as we grieve this morning for the fallen, and for the fact that America has found itself stuck in another quagmire of imperial overreach, we know that our emotions, our hurt, our pain, and our sorrow is part of the process of healing. But another part of the healing will take place come tomorrow. We will continue our work as soldiers and veterans of another kind. No longer warriors of empire, we are fighting a different battle. As Camilo Mejia described in his new memoir, Road from Abernathy, it is, quote, a war against the system, a battle against the military machine, the imperial dragon that devours its own soldiers and Iraqi civilians alike for the sake of profits. And while the casualty numbers at this point appear to make the 2 wars distinct, we stand here today humbled by the reality of the lessons of Vietnam. And that is the power of resistance by active duty ranks and veterans, coupled with a massive anti-war movement at home, and the ability of an occupied people to defend their nation. So likewise, we strive to build the same conditions of Vietnam that stopped a war as a means to bring justice and an end to the current war for oil and empire today. In memory of our fallen and to a new generation of anti-war soldiers. Thank you.
The next person I'm going to bring up is Vincent Emanuele. I just met him recently in March. He was a brand new Iraq veteran, against the war member, and I gave him a call and I said, "Hey man, we need to hang out." And he came up and hung out with a bunch of veterans here in Chicago, and just like that, now we're brothers. We're brothers because we went through a lot of experiences that are similar, and he's going to give a little story about one of his experiences that I think is really appropriate for today, for remembrance.
Thank you, and please bear with me. My voice is lost from this past event over the weekend, so I'm going to try my best to... As a young boy growing up, I remember playing Army with my brother and friends for hours upon hours a day and for days at a time. It seems as though in our country, one grows up with a gun in one's hands. Either that or watching movies and playing video games involving deadly weapons and killing. I guess this sort of childhood fantasy came true 4.5 years ago when I volunteered to join the United States Marine Corps. I was trained non-stop for months upon months by the Corps for one specific reason: to become a professional killer. Even through these miserable days of relentless training, which included instant blister-forming 15-mile hikes, sleeping in the sand for weeks at a time, and shooting over 100,000 rounds in the hot California sun, these daily tasks still did not prepare me for when that day finally came, when I had to take another human being's life. It was an unusually chilly evening for Iraq. I was sitting on my plastic lawn chair in our wooden shack we call a sea hut. This 12-foot by 12-foot room was my home for 7 months in the summer and winter of the year 2004-2005. I suddenly heard the raspy voice of our squad leader, Sergeant Abernathy. "Saddle up, boys," he screamed. Now this was supposed to be our off day, or our rest time. No one was particularly happy that we were about to do anything at this god-awful night. A couple of buddies and I started loading the wood into our armored trucks, all the while smoking cigarettes and complaining about our upcoming excursion. These are always the worst missions. Middle of the night, unexpected, little preparation. No one was in a jovial mood by any means. After rounding up the guys, loading the trucks, and receiving our mission statement, we hit the road. The outpost, called the retrans site, was a good 20-minute drive from the main base. The ride seems like an eternity. I can't say our particular Humvee and its personnel were in poor spirits, however. I had my CD player and headphones on. PFC Glasper, who is an African-American kid from the inner city of Chicago, was up in the turret gun on top of our vehicle with the same goofy smile and lost look on his face as he had for most of the deployment. And Lance Corporal Villa, a Mexican friend of mine from southern Texas, was behind the wheel as always. Villa is truly a great spirit, rarely in a bad mood and willing to talk about anything. It didn't matter that it was the middle of the night. The jokes kept coming as if it were Villa's job to be as sarcastic as possible. I thoroughly enjoyed sharing a vehicle with these two gentlemen during our stay in the desert. It turned out to be a safe trip to our destination. We dropped off the supplies and had a chance to smoke and joke with some buddies of ours from 2nd Squad. I suddenly heard the Humvee starting. It was time to hit the road and head back to base. Every time we drove at night, Iraq looked so much prettier. No blindingly bright sun or hot desert floor. Just the endless stars in the night sky and all its wonderful beauty. The moon was spectacular, full and bright as ever. I remember thinking this almost every time I looked out the window on that drive home. I faded to sleep fast from this sight and from the melody in my ear. I know this probably doesn't sound like the most vigilant thing to do while driving around in a combat zone, but I figured we'd taken this route 1,000 times. I might as well catch up on some much needed sleep. I was woken by 2 deafening gunshots. It was Sergeant Abernathy. "Go, go, go!" he screamed at the top of his lungs and pointed wildly in the direction of a field off to the left side of the road. Villa frantically asked, "Do you see anything? Do you see anything?" Louder and louder each time, with the response being the same. Not a thing in sight. Wham! We hit a deep ditch going about 40 miles per hour. My weapons turned around and the plastic handguard to protect my skin from the red-hot barrel was busted off. PFC Glasper took the hit hard. He was crunched over in the back seat of our truck in the fetal position from having his ribcage smashed against the roof. I finally caught a glimpse of the silhouette. It was a man running. In a flash of a second, he was gone. He jumped into a drainage ditch. Villa stopped the Humvee and I quickly exited. All I could think while approaching the ditch was, "Please do not pop up and shoot me in the face. Please do not pop up and shoot me." I looked down but couldn't see a thing. Bang, 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 I emptied my entire magazine of rounds into the ditch. I couldn't stop pulling the trigger. And I even stopped and reloaded another magazine and continued to fire. Villa came running towards me with a flashlight. There he was, dead as dead can be. No more than a couple feet in front of my face. To this day, I can't remember why, but when Villa put that light on him, I fired 2 more rounds into his already bloodied corpse. Maybe out of fear of him still being alive, or the possibility of me having to care for a man I already had tried to kill. "Check the body for bombs," Sergeant Abernathy shouted as he came running towards the scene. Upon picking up the body, we saw that I had shot the man in the back of the head, resulting in the complete collapse of his skull structure. His forehead also had a baseball-sized gaping hole from where the bullet exited. There's something sensational about taking another human being's life. My immediate reaction was that of accomplishment, satisfaction, of being a hero. Overwhelming, that was the sense I had at the time, not sure whether to cry or to let out a primal scream. I soon found out that the man had 3 other accomplices, all of whom were attempting to plant a roadside bomb on the path we were traveling. When the explosive experts arrived, they had told us if we had gotten there a couple minutes later, we would have never disrupted them and one of our trucks would have been blown to pieces. The euphoric feeling faded fast. On the way home, I felt numb almost. Not upset, not excited. Almost a sense of complete and utter tranquility. Back at the base, we arrived to a small crowd of fellow Marines who heard of the news, congratulating and patting me on the back for what I had done. I remember wanting to get to the showers as fast as possible. Maybe cleaning myself would rid my body of this awful energy it was receiving. Still pumped from the adrenaline rush, I thought showering was the best option. The entire rest of that night, I felt as if you were watching my every step, lurking around every corner, perched under every stair. I hadn't felt such fear since I was a young boy. Attempting to wind down the night, I was on the porch of our shack having a smoke. when Vic, a quiet guy from a Southern Baptist family in Kentucky, came out to talk to me. Pretty crazy we ran into those guys out there. How you feeling, man? I didn't know what to say. I mean, how did I feel? I was happy we didn't die, yet I was extremely upset that someone had to die in the end. I said I was fine, and we talked about how I was a part of war and how I did the right thing. I told him I always wondered what it was like to take another human being's life, and now I knew. Unfortunately, this wasn't the last time I had to discharge my weapon in self-defense during our tour in Iraq. 2 days later, we were ambushed, and my best friend and platoon member was killed in a 5-hour firefight with insurgents. Maybe this was a part of life. Maybe this was God's way of showing me what it was like to have a life so close, taken so fast. I found out real quick what killing and the tragedies of war were like, all within a 72-hour span of time. There are a million ways to describe a war. Unneeded, useless, tragic, horrific. I would also say missing and sad. Missing is a piece of me that I will never ever get back. Sad is the state of affairs in the world in which we live in today. That piece of me and that empty sadness that fills my heart is and forever will be in Iraq and in my memory for eternity. Thank you.
Missing and sad. Missing and sad. Missing and sad. Where's the humanity? Missing and sad. The next speaker is Paul Abernathy. He's my brother from Pittsburgh. He came all the way from Pittsburgh just to speak to you folks today. You might have to hold the mic, brother. Got it? Yeah.
Have these dead died in vain? It is a question that every generation experiencing war must no doubt ask themselves. Sadly today, it is a conversation that has become diluted by those who would have us use their losses to justify illegal and immoral government policies enforced on our brothers and sisters thousands of miles away from us. All across this great nation today, people will lay wreaths on tombs of unknown warriors, an exercise of honor and remembrance, one that is absolutely important. The one that can, in a way, betray the truth of their sacrifice, because to so many Americans, their sacrifice ends there. When I think about what happened in this country after September 11, 2001, I recognize the pain and loss that we experienced on that day, but I also recognize that before the final ashes had fallen from ground zero, we had become so fixated with a spirit of vengeance and wrath that we had forgot who we truly were. And we were prepared to inflict pain on brothers and sisters half the world away, incarcerated by the pain of a different sort. I was in the invasion of Iraq. We went by the thousands. Each day there were more and more of us. And each day, more and more people died. First they were in the scores, then the hundreds, then the thousands, American and Iraqi alike. It was a beast that began to consume our entire country, betraying the truth of American ideals. But there was, however, one thing this beast did not anticipate, and that was the redemptive quality of the loss of our brothers and sisters. Because with each soldier we lost, with each brother and sister that came home through Dover, we began to ask ourselves, what have we become? You see, brothers and sisters, the anti-war movement isn't just to end this war. It is to save the very soul of our country. And that is only possible because of those who have given the last full measure in our name. It is this legacy that we must never fail to continue. And it is this legacy that we must always remember. Thank you.
Still. So we've heard from some Iraq veterans, but we're also going to be doing some other things today. We're bringing up a friend Joel to talk about someone that just passed away recently. I think inspired me when I was deployed. It's really hard to find people to really talk to sometimes, and sometimes you can retreat away into books. Our next speaker is going to talk a little bit about Kurt Vonnegut.
Yeah, hi. My name is Joel Bleifuss. I'm the editor of In These Times in Chicago. And Kurt Vonnegut was one of our senior editors. In the last few years, he wrote for us quite a bit. And a lot of what he wrote about was the war in Iraq and how misguided and totally pointless it was. So I'm going to read a few things he's written about war. And I want to start off, he was a prisoner of war in Dresden in World War II. And his book Slaughterhouse-Five was written out of that experience. And here's what he said about how he came to write that, what was probably one of the great anti-war books of all time. In 1968, the year I wrote Slaughterhouse-Five, I finally became grown up enough to write about the bombing of Dresden. It was the largest massacre in European history. I, of course, know about Auschwitz, but a massacre is something that happens suddenly. It's killing a whole lot of people in a very short time. In Dresden, about 135,000 people were killed on February 13, 1945, by the British firebombing of Dresden in one night. It was pure nonsense, the pointless destruction of that city. The whole city was burned down, and it was a British atrocity, not ours. They sent in night bombers, and they came in and set the whole town on fire with a new kind of incendiary bomb. And so everything organic, except my little POW group, was consumed by fire. It was a military experiment to find out if you could burn a whole city down by scattering incendiaries all over it. Of course, as prisoners of war, we dealt hands-on with dead Germans, digging them out of basements because they had suffocated there and taking them to a huge funeral pyre. Why my fellow prisoners of war and I weren't killed, I don't know. I was a writer in 1968. I was a hack. I'd write anything to make money, you know. And what the hell? I'd seen this thing. I'd been through it. And so I was going to write a hack book about Dresden, you know, the kind that would be made into a movie where Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra and all of them would play us. I tried to write, but I couldn't get it right. I kept writing crap. So I went to my friend's house, Bernie O'Hare, who'd been my pal, and we were trying to remember funny stuff about our times as prisoners of war in Dresden, tough talk and all that, stuff that would make a nifty war movie. And his wife, Mary O'Hare, blew her stack. She said, you were nothing but babies then. And that is true of soldiers. They are in fact babies. They are not movie stars. They are not Duke Wayne. And realizing that was the key, I was finally free to tell the truth. We were children children, and the subtitle of Slaughterhouse 5 became The Children's Crusade. I was interviewed by National Public Radio's Renee Montaigne in 2003 on the eve of the second anniversary of 9/11 and asked about remembering or not remembering cataclysmic events and the act of creating art, and why it took me 23 years to write about what I experienced in Dresden. We all came home with stories, I told her. We were all selling them. We had just been teenagers in our early 20s and had seen real stuff, you know, death, explosions, fire, all that. And we all wanted to cash in on it one way or another and tell a story. And what Mary O'Hare was saying in effect was, why don't you tell the truth for a change? Ernest Hemingway wrote a story after World War I called A Soldier's Home, and how it is very rude to ask a soldier when what he has seen when he comes back home. I think a lot of people, including me, clammed up when a civilian asked about battle, about war. It wasn't fashionable. One of the most impressive ways to tell your story is to refuse to tell it, you know. Civilians would then have to imagine all kinds of deeds of daring do. But I think the Vietnam War freed me and other writers because it made our leadership and our motives seem so scruffy and essentially stupid. We could finally talk about something bad that we did to the worst people imaginable, the Nazis. And what I saw, what I had to report, made war look so ugly. You know, the truth can be really powerful stuff. You're not expecting it. Of course, another reason not to talk about war is that it's unspeakable. Rumsfeld wondered if Americans had stomach enough for casualties. No, we don't. We don't like casualties. Most of us live happy never having to kill anybody. I didn't kill anybody in the Second World War, thank God, but these guys, these neocons, think killing is a perfectly ordinary thing to do. That strikes me as very un-American. War is murder, and war veterans have committed murder, and that's a various thing to do. And we now have children who are committing murder for us now being horribly mistreated. In all our wars, never have soldiers been so mistreated by the commander-in-chief, so heartlessly. And just a final few notes on the Iraq War. This is what he wrote on the pages of In These Times. Many years ago, I was so innocent, I still considered it possible that we could become the humane and reasonable America so many members of my generation used to dream of. We dreamed of such an America during the Great Depression, when there were no jobs, and when we fought and often died for that dream during the Second World War, when there was no peace. But I know now that there is not a chance in hell of America's being humane and reasonable, because power corrupts us and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Human beings are chimpanzees who get crazy drunk on power. By saying that about our leaders, that they are power-drunk chimpanzees, am I in danger of wrecking the morale of our soldiers fighting and dying in the Middle East? Their morale, like so many bodies, is already shot to pieces. They are being treated, as I never was, like toys a rich kid got for Christmas. Thank you.
Dream of America, right? That's what he said. A dream of America. I had a dream of America. 18 years old. Maine East High School. It's up on the north of Chicago, north suburb. Raised by my single mother. Wanted to go to college. Believed in what the Army said it would do. You know, said I would do. Believed in what happened in 1992 and the Illinois National Guard deploying to stop the flooding along the Mississippi River. Dreaming of humanity. Missing and sad. Missing and sad, to me, are the kids that line the roads in Iraq that I drove past for over a year, 3 months, and 7 days. And they didn't move. I thought I was there to help. Missing and sad is the fact that these kids are less important than our supposed mission. Our supposed mission that's more important than our lives. driving without our plates for our flak vests, driving out without maps, without proper maps. I don't even go through Chicago without getting a map. Missing and sad is the state of affairs that our country's at right now. And missing and sad is humanity right now. I hope as we spend time on this Memorial Day that we think about what that means. But what's missing on this Memorial Day? What's missing for me is a little boy from Iraq named Ahmed. A little boy that was raped by this war. He lost his arm. He lost his eyes. This country doesn't want him here. Missing is the compassion to take care of him. But you know what? That kid, he has complete love and complete faith. I met him in New York City through an organization called Global Medical Relief Fund. And he gave me nothing but love and trust. And missing is the love and trust that's needed for humanity. With that note, I just want to bring up our last person, who is the whole reason we're here, really. Well, this organization, Vietnam Veterans Against the War. They provide this space for Iraq veterans against the war to speak out. And we wouldn't be here if they haven't not stopped struggling this entire time. 40 years, and they're still struggling. And I thank them for that. So, Barry Romo.
It's hard being short.
Hard being tall.
That's for damn these tall people. Thank you. I'm not that short. That's my mom. First, I want to thank Eleanor. Eleanor is the oldest and longest supporter of Vietnam Vets Against the War. 90 years old. She was in the Second World War. That's what I call the Patriot. And damn the military if they didn't recall her to active duty for Korea. So she served, and she always shows up for VVAW's Memorial Day and Vets Day. No cynicism, always fighting for a better life. Thank you. Part two, we got a whole bunch of flowers behind me. We're going to start passing them up so that afterwards, when the thing is over, we're going to ask people to have a moment of silence, and then we're going to ask people to file down, not all in a group and not a mob, but to sort of show that we can work together without knocking each other over. And we want you to throw the flowers into the river to remember someone who you want to remember, but also the Iraqi civilians, Vietnamese civilians, Cambodians, Laotians, and on, Native Americans, black people in the slave trade. But we want you to think about that and sort of do it individually as we all do it together. You know, 40 years ago I was in Vietnam leading a platoon. I got out, found Vietnam Vets Against the War. And when we first started becoming politically active, we looked for other vets to sort of emulate. And it was real hard to find anti-war vets, but we did find some. Most importantly, we found people who were veterans of the Abraham Lincoln Brigade. People who went off without getting paid money. The first white troops to be led by black officers, again, 1936. And we liked them, and they were anti-war. And we would talk to them. Some of them had been red-listed and blackballed during the 50s. And they said, well, you know, we were just premature anti-fascist. And they gave us a little bit of hope because we saw that they could struggle and not become cynical. We saw that they could engage in political activity and not lose hope and a desire for something better. Things don't change because that's what should happen. Things don't change because we pray. They change because we do something. And one person doing something alone can do something, but it doesn't cause fundamental change. You have to work with other groups. You have to devise organizations. And one of the things that makes me incredibly happy right now is the emergence of Iraq Vets Against the War. It's an organization that is serious, that in a time of war, like us, which makes me proud, are opposing the war they fought in while it's still going on. Every time Bush or Cheney or Gates or Petraeus gets up and talks their shit, I want to know how come they don't have an IVAW person there to present the other side. Why do we have to have some right-winger who supports the war against an ultra-right-winger who wants us to use nukes against Iran? It doesn't make any sense. The other thing that unites us, and Aaron said it, and that is that if the war ends, and I want to tell you something, it is. And it's going to end because people like you, people like me, people like them are demanding that it does, that we're taking political action, that we're working together. We ain't got money, but we do got each other. And we ain't afraid of the media, the police, the band of Eagles, which I saw in the American Legion paper, the right-wing hecklers at the demonstration. If you looked at the size of them, you would go, oh my God, the band of Thanksgiving turkeys. If they want to call themselves Eagles, they should have to go on a diet. One thing that continues to unite us is a question of morality, the fact that we stand for life, not death. And I ain't talking about moral majority morality. I'm not talking about hypocritical reality. I'm not talking about pro-life, anti-women, pro-death penalty, drop a few nukes, invade Iran kind of morality. I'm not talking about the keep my wife barefoot and pregnant and doing everything I say kind of morality. I'm talking about the real kind of morality. The morality that Martin Luther King led when this country was engaged with political activity. And that's what unites us, and that's how come people like the Bushes can't win. Because what unites us is so much more than what divides us. I am going to say a couple of more things. One, don't forget afterwards 18th and Western. Indiana. It's hard when you get old. You need lots of people to help you remember things. 18th in Indiana, around 1:30. We're going to be there. We're going to be barbecuing. The Vietnam Vets Art Museum will be open. And we want you there. We want to be able to interact with you. We want to become better friends with you. We want to plot to stop the war. Please come and join us there. What? And, oh, I'm sorry. And the reason we're doing this, and the reason my mommy mobile is is full of food as we talk right now is because we want to raise funds for IVAW. They're poor. Jesus, the college cost a day. It's unbelievable. It seems like that alone is a plot by the Bushes to keep people from being politically active. And so we want you there. We want you to give as much as you can. And if you don't got any, you come anyway because we want you there. If you got a little bit more money than other people, we want you to give that extra amount of money. But show up. And so now, I think that's all of my announcements. I want us to take 90 seconds because we're remembering not just our own, but we're remembering those that we have oppressed, those we have bombed, those we have ended their ways of life. And so I would ask for 90 seconds of silence, and I'll tell you when it's over. Thank you, Direct Us Against the Wolf.
Let us try what love can do, let peace prevail. To build this sad old world anew, let peace prevail. Let peace prevail. Let peace prevail. In our hearts and in our minds, let peace prevail. God to feed the hungry,
have a whole bunch of the newest issue of the Veteran.
Are you Ray?
We would rather not have to take them back home. And so if you haven't got a copy or you've got a friend at work that you think you should bring it to, take a second and just come pick up the latest issue of the Veteran. Largest one printed in 40 years of our history.
Yeah, I think so. Meeting there. Okay, that's right, that's right. I still haven't got, all these years, haven't got a grip on Ukrainian poetry, but what's the main East Coast? Chicago Avenue.
peaceful people, and we are singing for our love.
Do you know these names are just Chicago? They all fit down.